Hi guys. One of the three top things that I've noticed that negatively impacts performance at work is stress. For example, some of us will avoid people or activities as a way of trying to decrease stress. But does that actually work? Do we then feel more guilty or more stressed for doing that? Some of us might get into conflict by blowing off steam as a way to relieve stress. And yeah, it feels good to release the stress, but then how do you feel 5 minutes later? And how about if you do this at home with your partner or your kids? However, stress is part of our day-to-day lives, and a lot of it we can't control, such as market forces, your bosses or your board's decisions, clients changing their minds, technology, traffic, even the weather. So expecting to have a life of no stress seems a little out of reach for most of us. So stress also can be a little bit like quicksand. The more you're trying to feel stress by ignoring it or blowing off steam, or even pretending it isn't there, it seems to trap us. And what I've noticed in my life and work is that underneath stress is usually fear. But I find most people, including myself, are not always aware of this at the time. Now I have some good news, some bad news, and then there's more good news about stress. Good news. There are some good specific scientific reasons why humans are not particularly good with stress. So you're not alone, it's common, and there is a reason why you feel this way. The human brain has a negative bias. This negative bias was created to protect us from being eaten by a hungry tiger and preparing us for the worst outcome. So if we go back 200,000 years ago and we're hunting for dinner, and suddenly to our left we see dinner, but then suddenly to our right, hungry tiger sees us as dinner. And if we were to hook up that prehistoric person's brain to an MRI machine, what we would see is this part of the brain all lit up. It's where the amygdala sits, and it's called the flight, fight, fright part of our brain. Do I run from the tiger? Do I stand still and hope the tiger doesn't notice me? Or do I defend myself and go in and fight the tiger? The bad news is that in 2019, while it's not a tiger to our right, unless we're on safari, I suppose, we respond in the same way. Some call it or blame it on our reptilian brain. I came across this quote recently by a leading neuroscientist who I think sums this up perfectly. Now, in 2019, our minds are made for peak performance while working under Stone Age conditions. Now, I don't know what your tiger is, but mine have included things like a difficult boss or client, an ex-partner, an employee who I needed to discipline, an event I really didn't want to go to, making a speech in front of peers, or knowing I was about to get or give bad news. Yours may be something else. Even the thought of having to deal with any of these can create stress, let alone actually going into the fray. The good news is that in 2019, we now know we can change this. And it's largely to do with our ability to rewire our brains. It is so cool. We can actually change our experience with our tiger. Now, what's really important here is we don't try and stop the tiger appearing, nor pretend it isn't there when it does. Because if you continue to do this, you'll very quickly find yourself back in that quicksand. Instead, we learn strategies that allow us to notice the tiger while still get on with our day and do what's important to us, and in some cases get more done. And even the better news is that these strategies can be so simple. I started to use these a few years ago, and can I tell you, it helped me get through my divorce, a financial tsunami, losing my dad to mental health while starting my coaching business and studying to then finally become a registered psychologist. I've had CEOs and leaders of industries of all kinds use these strategies, and I have the evidence that proves they work. In this program, I'll be sharing with you 2 of these most effective strategies and how you can implement them into your daily life. Stay tuned.